we're going to be doing a radial clearance, an axial clearance, and we're also going to be checking for the housing clearance. For the axial or the in clearance, what you're testing for is movement of the shaft going in and out, checking for tolerances on your bearings. And for the radial, what you're testing for is the left and right and the up and down movement on your shaft. And then for the housing clearance, you're checking for the clearance between your fins and the housing of the turbo. I'm going to be using a dial indicator, some filler gauges, and because this turbo has been sitting on the bench dry, I'm going to use about a drop or two of oil through the oil pickup to compensate for the oil clearance as if it were sitting on an actual engine. So to get things started, first thing I'm going to do, let it work down, get around the shaft. Alright, so I'm going to set up my dial indicator. And first thing we're going to check is the axial or the end cap. Then when you get your dial indicator set up, always make sure you put it to 0 to get your best accurate reading. Alright, so we're at 0. And like I said, with the axial, what we're checking for is movement of the shaft going through. So I'm going to hold the housing. And we're at about 2 thousandths in each direction. And for this turbo, the max allowable is 2 to 6 thousandths. So we're well within spec. So the next we're going to be checking for is our radial. So for that, we need to adjust, and we're looking to put our dial indicator along the outer edge of the shaft so we can test movement going side to side. Alright, and again, make sure our dial indicator is zeroed out. Finicky little things. Alright, so like I said, with the radial clearance, we're testing for movement of the shaft side to side. So we've got 1 thousandths in that direction, and less than 1 thousandths in that direction. So our clearance is well within specs, and so the next thing that I want to do is check the housing clearance. And as I said, to do that, I'm going to be using a filler gauge. So we're going to move our dial indicator out of the way. And because I'm using thousandths, most filler gauges come with 2 numbers. The .035 is going to be your thousandths, and then the 889 is in millimeters. So we were right at 2 thousandths. So we're going to go through here. That's 0.15, 0.002. So we're going to start at the minimum clearance, what we had, and we're going to work our way up. And what we're looking for with this clearance is the clearance between the fin and the housing, making sure we have adequate room and clearance for our turbo to spin. And as you're doing it, you're just going through around, making sure you have clearance, but with the clearance you want a little bit of drag between the fin and the housing. And we had a little bit of drag, but not quite enough to be comfortable with. So I'm going to go up. And same thing, I'm just going to keep checking. If this one doesn't work, I'm just going to keep going up with the filler gauge sizes and just checking to make sure it's a nice, smooth, light drag on the filler gauge. And the purpose of this is making sure your bearings are within tolerance of what they're supposed to be of the manufacturer's specification. And keep in mind, whenever you're working on a piece of equipment like this, always look up the manufacturer's specifications for that equipment so you know what your tolerances are supposed to be.